welcome to the Wright Perspective. Today, we're going to recap and discuss a movie musical from 1961 that is definitely considered a classic, West Side Story, starring Natalie Wood, Richard Beymer, Russ Tamblyn, Rita Moreno, George Chakiri. The film was actually nominated for 11 Academy Awards and it won 10, including Best Picture.
Wow.
Directed by Robert Wise and Jerome Robbins, it is arguably one of the most famous modern takes on Romeo and Juliet. And so we're going to discuss plot and direction, characters and acting, cinematography, sound, and music. But first, we must introduce ourselves and then decide on the voting symbol that we're going to use to rate this movie at the end of our recap. So for those that are new to the Wright Perspective, we always pick a voting symbol that is tailored to the content we are reviewing. And so, bro, kick us off for the introductions.
Hi, I'm Aubrey Wright, and I'm the oldest.
I'm Genia Wright. I'm the middle.
Hi, I'm Brittany Wright, and I am the youngest.
Y'all, what did y'all think of for voting symbols?
A crack rock.
Why do we keep coming back to crack?
First of all, this movie has nothing to do with crack.
Literally no crack.
Oh, I got it.
I have a couple.
Shoes. Dancing shoes is a good one. That's a good one.
On behalf of
what other gangsters do you know that know how to do a point toe?
Listen, here's the point.
So great.
Here's why I can't be dancing shoes.
That's what was wrong with New Jack City. There was no point toe.
Here's why I can't be dancing shoes. The movie is not about dancing.
It's true. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, go ahead, Janai.
I have 3 options that I've come up with. And I usually have
everybody
really top-notch options.
Brace yourself for the Janai options.
I thought we could do snaps. Snaps, they did so much snapping. I also thought we could do turf, because the whole thing is about turf. That's all the gangs want is turf.
I cannot, because we're clearly not picking turf, but I want you to put the symbol up on the screen. I would have been turf. Because I don't even know what that would look like.
It's a little bit of concrete. It's a block of concrete.
Well, let's hear the
and then the last one is playgrounds. Listen.
Okay. I didn't have a great one, but it's better than all of yours. So I was thinking we could do a dagger because it was
you mean a pocket knife?
Yeah, pocket knife.
Dagger is a little,
Yeah, so switchblade.
Oh yeah, switchblade.
Okay. Because I was thinking, these are the 2 I was thinking about, because a switchblade is what set off the killing, because that's right. When what's his name, the main one? I cannot believe his name.
Riff Bernardo.
Riff, good gracious. I was wanting to say Rick.
Gideon.
Yeah, Gideon, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, him getting killed, that was what really set off the tragedy. But the real tragedy was Tony getting killed. So that was with a gun. So I was thinking either a switchblade or a bullet.
I feel like we gotta kind of go with switchblade.
Yeah, and I think it's appropriate because Anne and Romeo and Juliet, they I think that's how the suicide happened, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Stabbed themselves.
But anyway, so that was what really began the tragedy. So,
okay, I think that's right. Because that's how the blood got on Tony's hands with the switchblade.
Exactly.
That's
exactly.
Good. Okay, so at the end of our discussion, we are going to decide whether This movie is a classic from the Wright perspective. It can only be deemed a classic if it receives 3 switchblades. We must all give it a switchblade. So let's get in. So I'll start out with, as usual, a recap.
And can I tell you, I'm not decided yet. So,
yeah.
Really?
I
think this is the first one where not
on the fence where
like where I'm struggling.
I'm waiting for the conversation to unfold.
Okay. It's funny you should say that, bro, because mine has switched multiple times. I have something in mind now, but mine has switched over the last couple of days. Like I've been flip-flopping.
And are you going to do a synopsis on this one?
Yeah. Yep, I got it. Okay, here we go.
Well, it could be. Is it short?
It is.
Yeah, because if you don't know, but you know what? That is the whole point. We're attracting people who may have not seen West Side Story. So
that's why we do the recaps at the top.
Exactly.
And that's why they're full of spoilers. So
hashtag spoiler alert.
Hashtag spoiler alert.
Literally, probably what we should have called our podcast.
I like that.
That's a good name. You late, but that's a good name. 25 episodes in. So, the film is set in the Upper West Side of Manhattan, and the story focuses on the experiences of 2 gangs. One gang, the Jets, are composed of white people, and the other gang, the Sharks, are composed of Puerto Rican people. Everybody is poor, and the gangs are in the gangs. You know, at the root of the gang tension is turf. Frankly, the Jets feel that they own those streets, and that the Puerto Ricans are infringing upon their ownership. Now, from what we can see in terms of the way the movie worked out, ownership of a street is basically the ability to intimidate other children in the neighborhood. The movie doesn't seem to demonstrate any other practical value to owning the turf for the white gang, but they really want that turf. And so for the Puerto Rican gang, there's a bit more of a practical meaning.
For them streets.
Oh, they want those streets. And all they did was like take basketballs from children, give them a mean stare, and then give it back. It's like, if I had turf, I'd do something better with it. I think they don't even know what to do with turf.
You're dismissing the time that they hung out and Coca-Cola
and hang out at the candy store.
Right,
that's inexplicably open all night long in 1961.
They would always close the door. Yes, they would close the door all the time as if the window wasn't still open.
Right.
I was like, okay.
So for the Puerto Rican gang, there is a bit more of a practical meaning in the turf because they can't freely access certain communal areas in the neighborhood, like the playground and the soda shop. And so they at least have a little something they're fighting for, access to communal areas. But if you step away from the practical pieces, the fight for turf, of course, has a much bigger meaning. It's about finding a way to create space for people and power for people that are pretty powerless in the bigger scheme of things, you know. And so it's about it's about family, finding family in the gangs, community, friendship, protection, I would say identity, you know. So there are all of these other reasons that are a little less tangible, but are still reasons why, just in terms of what they're getting out of the gang culture. So things were already coming to a head between the gangs when the sister of one of the Shark members, Maria, fell in love with one of the founders of the Jets, Tony. And their relationship gets swept into the gang mayhem. And it's really too bad because neither of them is actively involved in the gang life. Maria has only been in the US for a short while, and Tony had pretty much retired from the gang life. And in fact, he was only in touch with the gang. He was out the streets. And the only reason he was even in touch with the gang was because the co-founder of the gang, Riff, was really like a brother to him. Riff lived in his home for the last 4.5 years, you know? So that's the only reason he even had any connection, because he was out. He had a job at the soda shop, cleaning up, stocking the shelves, handing out
Living
the
in the
soda.
basement.
That's right. But as the movie ultimately teaches us, everything exists in the context. And so even though Maria and Tony weren't in the gang culture directly, their love was born in the context of gang life and race tensions. And those tensions would ultimately be the end of their love, you know? So the gangs end up scheduling a deciding rumble. And this was going to be the rumble that was going to determine who gets the turf. And Tony had intervened and he had talked them down from like a ginormous rumble into a clean fight, meaning just fisticuffs between their two top-notch fighters. And so it was supposed to be a clean fight, only two people fighting. And, you know, eventually, of course, it turned into a knife fight. And Bernardo, Maria's brother and the head of the Sharks, ended up killing Riff, Tony's best friend, brother from another mother. Tony, in the passion of the moment, in despair and anger, he kills then Bernardo, Maria's brother, the brother of the love of his life. And then later on, Chino, a person who was the friend of Bernardo, a member of the Sharks, and actually someone that was a semi-love interest for Maria, he ends up then shooting Tony. Now Tony dead, Bernardo dead, Riff dead, and Maria sitting on the ground next to a dead body of her lover, crying. And the movie actually ends with both gangs carrying Tony's dead body away with the police, and then Chino getting arrested. And that's how it ends. So that's the summary. I mean,
listen, when you summarize it, I go, did I watch this movie?
I feel like that's it.
It's like, dang, that's really it.
That's it. But you know, I feel like that's a good segue into the plot and direction, because there really wasn't much to the story.
Well, yeah, and this is a musical, and often musicals are not about complex plots because it's an event.
I feel some have a little bit more depth.
I say usually.
Okay,
but
usually I'll take it usually.
You know, there are musicals that get into some, you know, deep stuff like Fiddler on the Roof, even My Fair Lady. You know,
but even if the content isn't deep, I mean depth of story. I don't mean like deep in the terms of like grappling with important issues of humanity. I mean, because this one touched on race,
like scope, like
it's like
sound of the
character development. I would say Seven Brides for Seven Brothers was one that had a simple, you know, storyline, but they went deeper. I feel like that's one where they really developed the characters. You know, we had relationship, we got a ton of backstory. I don't know. This one just seems so simple. I don't know. But what did y'all think? What did y'all think of the plot, the story, the direction of the movie?
Well, can we start off by asking the question, how did you feel watching it in 2020?
Yep.
Well, I'm just saying this.
Yes.
Well, what I will say to is that a lot of people, there's been a lot of stuff happening, and a lot of, you know, actors, you know, you find this out or that out, singers or whatever, and there's always a lot of conversations about, can you separate the art from the artist? And honestly, where I fall on it, where I've always fallen on it is, I don't force myself either way, you know. So I'm not going to endorse somebody or whatever, but like if there's a song I like or a TV show I like and I watch it and I still like it, then I still like it. And if I don't, then I don't. And that's just how I feel.
Yeah.
But this was interesting because I feel like it was unique in my experience in that this was the first time I felt tugged kind of both ways. And it was an interesting experience because I've seen West Side Story. We've seen West Side Story.
Oh, our mom loves this movie.
I mean,
so we watched it so many times growing
Veronica.
Up. Yeah, and we've seen it so many times. And I didn't realize it must have been a long time since I've seen it. Because when I was watching it, first of all, there were plot elements that I forgot.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that there were plot elements that I forgot, and I was expecting to enjoy it fully the same way I did as a child or whatever, but just watching everything. So to answer both of your questions, it was a situation, and in the sense of I did feel that conflict, and I'm sure we're going to hash that out, and I did. But at the same time, I felt like the characters. I'll be interested to discuss because I felt like the characters were pretty well. I was attached to the characters. I'm not going to say they were fleshed out. Yeah, but I was attached to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What did you think, sis?
I would tell you because I was texting my siblings as I was watching this, and I just don't think it ever registered to me in the 8,000,007 times that I've watched West Side Story that this musical was 2 days. I was like, this is a 2-day story. I said, how is this so tragic? It wasn't even a week.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying because when we're talking about it, yes, it is very simple, just like Janai said. But Brittany, I feel the same way. Like I feel like you feel. I felt very invested, and I think maybe it's because it's a musical, and on some level I just go along for the ride.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna tell you, the way that they do certain elements, I felt like just hit it so hard that, for example, in the scene when they first, and I told you when we talked about West Side Story last podcast, that this was my favorite scene, when Tony first meets Maria and they're at the
in the gym.
And first of all, that whole dance sequence where they're coming out and they're dancing, I just love the whole sequence. Yeah. But when they saw each other, the way
everything fades to the background and blurs out.
It blurs out. The music blurs out. And there's still dancers in the frame, but the focus is just on Tony and Maria. And yes, you look, in real life, you're like, love at first sight is ridiculous. That doesn't happen. But in this movie, I believed it because they just the way they looked at each other was like.
And maybe it's just where I am in life, but I was like, not even a conversation. And what y'all need to know, listeners, is that I watch on a very regular basis.
Oh gosh.
Lifetime movies. I just need people to know how low my bar is because
year-round.
I don't need a whole lot to get the buy-in. I'm very easy on the love buy-in. I pursue it actively. I turn on the movie and I decide I'm in love with the characters before anything is even started.
You're pro movie love.
Oh, I'm excellent at it. But when they saw each other and everything went blurry, I was like, really?
Really?
I was.
That seems definitely like an Aubrey eye roll moment.
No, because
more than anybody.
I thought have, even if it's like a very brief conversation. I don't even need like a whole bunch of conversation, but you have to at least talk a little bit, have one quick thing in common. Let the man say a funny joke. And it's like, ah, he's so funny. He's my husband. Something. I mean,
listen, he just met a girl named Maria.
But they just looked at each other. They hadn't even talked. I mean, you got to get just a tablespoon. I don't even need a cup. Just give me a tablespoon of personality.
I think I watch musicals.
The bar was a little different in the 60s.
I think I watch musicals a little differently. Because I'm saying that, first of all, we're watching gangsters walk through the street dancing.
Aubrey.
And not gangster dancing.
I saw gangsters dancing.
Not gangster dancing. I'm talking about
they do in New York, I think, on the subway.
At the end of the opening sequence, like when it first gets started out, they hit you with one of these. Like they hit you with with the leg up and everything.
Yeah.
So I'm saying my disbelief is already stretched at that point.
These
like,
are some hardcore turf war people. Listen,
they are snapping hard in
that
choreography.
You need a pavaré.
Yeah.
Listen,
I don't think that's a move, sis. I think you're making
I'm just saying. So
I don't think that's anything.
I'm just saying. So when they bring you, it's look.
It's a pavaré. It's a pavaré.
All right, I'm putting you both on top.
Yo, this is an inside joke because this is what me and Brittany do all the time. It's not. It's not.
It is.
I'm just
for those listening. The
point I'm trying to make tonight.
I am wagging my finger at Brittany to teach her a valuable lesson, and she's giving me a thumbs up to try to veto my finger wag. And this is an ongoing exchange.
Yeah,
I wanted to make sure all the listeners had the full experience.
And I think that's one of those inside jokes that the best thing about it
is when it's inside.
Is that it is.
Got it.
It is inside.
Yep.
But okay, so anyway, look, this is what I'm trying to say.
I just didn't. And I didn't fall in love when y'all did.
I was watching this thing that was talking about how I was watching something about Star Wars, and the Mandalorian is out, which is fantastic. But the guy was giving a critique on Star Wars and stuff like that, and they were talking about how in the beginning of a story, they stretch your expectations to a certain point. And as long as your expectations, as long as they don't go once they set the rules, as long as they don't go outside those rules, you stay immersed in the movie. And I'm just saying, a movie that starts out with ballet dancing gangsters, I'm already stretched to the limit. So it's kind of like whatever is happening, I'm okay with it.
Oh man, I don't know. Yeah, I think that's where it went awry for me, because the whole time I'm like, what? Y'all haven't even talked. And she's like, so like adamant about, anyway, I just needed a little bit more.
And like, can we also talk about love for a second? We've all experienced love that makes no sense.
It's true.
We've all experienced that. We've all experienced.
I feel like we're making general terms.
Well, I think in general we can agree that love is not logical.
I was about to say I've not experienced illogical love yet, but
it isn't logical.
I believe it is there.
Listen, I'm
speaking romantically. I'm not thinking about family.
I'm talking about romantic love because I'm talking about romantic love because there's romantic love that, like, you could fall in love with somebody based on who they are as a person and what they've done and what you've been through, and you build this strong relationship. Excuse me. But there's other times that you love somebody and there's no reason why. Like and you can even, if you're strong enough, logically extricate yourself from the situation. Yes. You can even make the decision that, look, I don't care how I feel. I'm not dealing with this person anymore.
Yeah.
But when you see them, that electricity is just there. It's like, it's just, you even get mad sometimes, like, oh, like,
and
but it's just there. Else?
And there's another, and as you're talking,
sounds like a good time.
Yeah, as you're talking, bro, you know what you're making me think about is the law of attraction. And that it says that everything you need is available to you in the universe, but you have to be looking for it and you have to expect it, or you're not going to find it. And the example I always use is like when I first got my first car, which was a Honda Accord. Y'all, I thought I was doing something. Then after I had my car, I realized that every other car on the highway was a Honda Accord. But it wasn't until I was looking for Honda Accords that they were available to me in such abundance.
It's called the reticular activator.
And what we learned before they met, we know that both of them were in expectation.
You took the words out of my mouth.
We learned that Tony, I mean, he was already saying something's coming around. What was it? Something up, something down. I don't know.
He was like, I wake up and I'm reaching out.
It's coming back. Yeah.
For what? For what? I don't know. I'm just
know.
And in perfect best friend fashion, Riff uses that against him. Riff says, he's like, it might be at the dance tonight.
Exactly.
It might be at the dance tonight. You should come.
Just playing on his emotions. And look, Tony is so immersed that he's like, it might be at the dance tonight.
Yeah.
Even whatever you're doing, it actually might be at the dance tonight.
He was
and the other thing is, think about
already delusional.
When Maria was talking about Chino.
She was.
Because Maria was seeing Chino, which was one of her brothers.
A suitor.
Friends. He was a suitor. And she said, I don't feel anything when I see Chino. Like I don't feel anything.
Yep.
And I'm just saying.
And she also said, this dance tonight is my first act as an American woman. She said, I'm an American woman now once I go to this dance. This is the beginning of my life as an American woman. Right. So they both walked in expecting something magical to happen.
They're both primed.
They was manifesting.
But I want to just illustrate for you all how I just talked myself into believing that love story. That's what I do. But normally I can do it like that. But when I was watching it, I was like, really?
Can I just say one more thing about that?
Yeah.
I just want to say one more thing about that. Because to me, everything we're talking about, law of attraction, this amazing feeling of inexplicable love, all this stuff.
Yes.
I feel like movies push us to the extreme. That's why we like watching superheroes and things that we're going to the movies.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was just an explanation, an example of a 1 in a trillion extreme example of just this cosmic connection. And I feel like they did a great job in terms of showing, because they did a good job of acting it.
Mm-hmm.
And they did it because they looked in love.
They clearly, the whole world fell away, to your point.
The whole world. Like everything got the volume turned down.
And it's so crazy just when you're in this mode, and that's for whatever it is, that you believe in something so strongly that it does not matter what anyone says. Like, I want to get to that about everything. Like, I believe in what I'm believing so strongly that even if I'm telling you a boy like that, I'm getting someone singing to me, a boy like that will kill your brother. Like,
I love him.
But I love him. Like, he was so, it's such an intense, like, feeling that they have. Something I will say about the movie, to switch directions a little bit, is that they were talking about low income people and how oftentimes low income people, what did they have to fight over? The street, the basketball court, the candy store, like things that they just, none of it that they own. And so I was looking at it from that perspective as well. But then everyone almost maybe like a romanticization, like, because everyone was talking about how they're immigrants or descendants of immigrants, and them coming to being in this neighborhood and just kind of seeing them fight for the American dream or the American way or whatever it is that they're believing is American.
Mm-hmm.
And so even in that, this belief system that you're having, like, this is something I want, this is something I need, like that just kind of being through the movie a little bit, so much so that I'm ready to fight for it. Mm-hmm. I'm ready to fight for, I'm ready to do a plie for this, for this street.
It's so true. It's so true. Well, and I want to talk about the plies for a moment, if I may. And what was that other move you made up, sis?
Pauvre. I don't think that's it. Google is not aware of that word. And
I think there's something called a pas de bourrée. But I don't even know how to.
There we go.
That's like, I took ballet in like second and third grade. It didn't take. It didn't take. Wasn't a good fit. But
you were cute in that VHS though. You were so
don't
cute.
Talk about the VHS.
And you have the same hairdo right now.
And I have on my tutu. But I like a musical number that moves the story along a little bit. And I found that a lot of these musical numbers were just emphasizing information that we already had. And so anyway, I just like the song to offer a little more, give us a little bit more insight. So for me, there was something about this. Okay, so do you know how when you're watching Fantasia, it's not like a coherent, it's like a bunch of different experiences. Yeah. That's how I felt about this. I felt like when I kind of like managed my expectations to just celebrate it for what it was kind of like I had to say to myself, okay, we're having a long dance scene right now in a garage and we're just saying bam, ha, pull it. And I was like, but
I'm not gonna lie, there were some songs I pressed fast forward through. I was like, I get the gist.
Yeah. But when I did that, when I kind of managed my expectations, I was able to really celebrate that choreography because it was very good.
James Robbins, that's his name, right? James Robbins. Phenomenal.
It was so athletic and it was so interesting. And there were parts of it that were like smooth and parts of it that were like staccato. It was just like, they did such a good job, I think, with the choreography and pairing it with the music in the moment. I just think that in terms of the music and the big dance numbers, they didn't always move the story along. Sometimes they did, but they often did.
Well, definitely. Like you said, this is more on the simpler side, but
yep.
I do think that like, for example, if we're talking about character development, like in the beginning and through, like, I feel like they did a good job of setting up, okay, this is one gang, this is another gang, they're rivals, they're obviously, this is strictly race-based. I also felt like the concept, and we're joking about the street, but I felt like the concept is just about like people wanting their own.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
You have these people who just want their own, and for whatever reason, or for no reason, which is the reality, is that the reasons that they get in each other's way are just reasons they made up. Mm-hmm. Like it doesn't make it any less of an obstacle in your way in terms of these two gangs.
Sure.
Now, but they're also dealing with socioeconomic questions. And I think that some of the songs, like for example, I Like to Be in America, right? So, which is the first big dance number with the Puerto Rican side of the Puerto Rican side of this movie. And first of all, I love the song, but but the thing is it's nuanced.
Yeah.
Because they're making the different sides of an argument of somebody who will immigrate to America. It's like, well, here I have certain things that I may not have had there. But at the same time, there's this, I came here for this American dream, and it seems like it's so much less accessible than it was sold to me to be.
Yep.
And so I'm saying in that sense, I felt like the song is problematic in areas, but I feel like that was the point.
Absolutely. It was an attempt clearly at showing the promise and then the failure of the country to make good on the promise. That's clearly what they were trying to do there. And I did appreciate that. And there were other parts of the movie where I felt like they were trying to lean into some of the harder issues, so I could, so there was a character.
Let's get into it.
There was a character. Well, actually just right before that, before we start talking about all of that problematic stuff, there was a character, Doc, who was the guy who owned the soda shop that clearly was on the turf of the Jets because they determined his operating hours clearly.
Which are 25 hours a day.
Doc would just be upstairs, come downstairs.
Yeah.
It can also say there was like not one parent in this whole movie. I don't know
that's what I was talking about earlier. When I'm talking about these low income, devastated situations, that's the Officer Korupke song. Like, so go ahead, sis. Like, I know we're about to get into that. But
well, that's actually what I was going to talk about, because it's like the character of Doc. He was repeatedly naming how dumb gang war is. He just they had him there as the person that would just say, why do you all keep doing this? Why he was naming the insanity and the futility of it all. He was the character that was naming that the goal would not be accomplished. And so I appreciated that he was there offering that critical analysis and challenging people to respond to him. Not that they did, but he was challenging them to respond. Mm-hmm. And then to Brittany's point about the Officer Korupke song, there was the Jets. They were talking about the complexity of doing the best that they can, but no matter what, people kind of projecting a story onto them. We're in the streets protecting our turf, and people have decided that because of that, we are absolutely from broken homes. We're absolutely some kind of, that we are problematic, and that we have some kind of social disease, I think was the language they were using, because they had made the choice. Instead of giving them the benefit of the doubt that it truly was the best that they can make of their circumstances to be a part of that organization. So they were definitely getting at some of the complex conversations, and see, that Officer Korupke song is a perfect example of a song that moved the story along. Mm-hmm. That was a song that offered additional insight. We got to meet the characters a little bit more. We got to understand their backgrounds, why they were in the gang, that they understood how people perceive them. But then there were so many more songs in the movie, I thought, that were just dance.
Like what?
Well, I think of the one in the garage is a good example.
Okay, I'll give you that one.
Janiyah, you haven't had a hard day and someone to tell you to play it cool?
You know what? I was in a
Well,
meeting.
guess
today.
what?
probably
You'll
that's
have
part
one
of the
from now on.
I was in a meeting today, and I was like,
Because anytime you
"Bam!"
anytime y'all call me upset from now on, be like,
you've never needed someone to do that for you.
The next time my coworkers are getting on my nerves, I'm gonna be like, "Pow!" And then and see if anybody can calm me down.
Boy.
Yeah. So anyway, but bro, you were transitioning us to start to talk about the characters, to talk about the actors, and these other pieces that are just
because I don't even know
the appropriation and the
because I was thinking about, like, should we talk about that separate or whatever, but honestly, I was experiencing it, like I said, during the movie.
Yep.
And I'm gonna tell you that, maybe it's because right now, because watching on a television back in, the 80s and early 90s is certainly different than watching it on a television right now. And I think maybe because what we're about to talk about is, obviously this movie was about a white gang versus a Puerto Rican gang. And the movie is supposed to be a social commentary on how racism is silly. Basically that both of these groups are in the same circumstance and they're fighting for no reason and they don't even realize it. And it's shown the futility and that only that leads to death,
Exactly.
So
nobody wins.
But so that's what the movie is teaching you. But the vehicle itself is kind of racist. And so it's I'm trying to be so.
Take out those two words.
Okay.
Take out those two words. Deliciously
I just said, look, because if you haven't seen the movie, one thing that and I would say, either way, however we decide this is a classic or not, I would say it would be interesting for you to watch it if you have any interest in musicals or even watching a piece of history. But what we're talking about,
it is ranked as one of the, to the extent that you want to go with the rankings from like the American Film Institute, it is ranked as one of the best movies of all time. Right. So worth watching for that reason.
It was different
because the movie itself, the idea that it's a positive message that it's talking about, but on the Puerto Rican side of these gangs, many of these actors are not Puerto Rican, and so they literally brown-faced these white actors to play the Puerto Ricans. And the thing is that it's not even like good makeup, y'all. It is, and like I said, I think it's more blatant now because we're watching on high def TVs and stuff like that. Yeah. So it's even worse now because like now you can see like, yo, that is crazy. Like, who said that was okay? Because
and it makes you start to wonder. And I was struggling with this. So when a lot of what we have been noticing is we go back and look at a lot of the things, the content that we treasured when we were younger, is that people of color are not represented at all. Mm-hmm. And so this movie made me start to think, what is worse? No representation, or this kind of like appropriation of story and a misrepresentation? Do you get credit for the attempt? Or is it just like, is it a greater violation, or are they equivalent? Which one is worse?
I think it's all worse. It's like, but the part of it I think would be the worst is someone else telling your story. And it's not from your perspective. It is from their perspective of your perspective. Mm-hmm. So you have a third party telling a first view perspective. And I think what makes it even more challenging for me is that when I know that there are parts in like the I Want to Be an American song. So first you have people faking this accent horribly. And then you have the main character, Maria, is played by a white woman. And then you also have in that song, I Want to Be an American, like talking about the population growing and just really making Puerto Rico just seem like this terrible place that no one should ever want to go back to. And to know that those songs were written by white men, that for me made the musical go, this is where the conflict came for me, because I felt the, well, I would say I felt the nostalgia, like, okay, this is, oh, this dancing, oh, but and I loved it, but then it was like, this is so awful.
In that same song, though, let me ask you this, because in the same song you have what's his name? Bernardo. I was about to say Bernardo. Bernardo, he's arguing the other side of it, though.
He isn't because the girls are arguing. They're saying what we had in Puerto Rico was bad. Okay. And what the guys are saying is America hasn't kept its promise. No one is saying anything was good in Puerto Rico. The girls there's so many lines in the song where they're talking about the bad parts of with their experience in Puerto Rico. There's no one is championing Puerto Rico.
It's all just a negative view. And it's like, how can you do that without placing this as now this mindset, now setting that, because we know culture and the arts are influential.
Yep.
So if I have no experience with Puerto Rico, all I know now is that it's hot, dude. People's having too many cheering, just all these different things that are seeming just really terrible about this beautiful place that is rich with culture. And it's just like, how that is literally
can I just for go ahead.
I was just gonna say the film lyrics, I want to just name, to be clear for folks, are different from the Broadway lyrics, because there was a Broadway show first, and then there was the film. So the Broadway show was 1957, and then the film was 1961. And so in the Broadway lyrics, there was something at the very top of the song was, Puerto Rico, you're a lovely island. I'm reading it now. Island of tropical breezes, always the pineapples growing, always the coffee blossoms blowing. And so they made the choice to take out the parts. There's a part in the Broadway.
Tell me that.
There's a part in the Broadway song.
It makes it so much worse.
I know. There's a part in the Broadway song where one of the characters says, I like the city of San Juan, and
but now they do say that in the movie version.
They did keep that.
The comeback is, I know a boat you can get on. Which the other part of it is, planes are clearly a thing by the 60s, 1960s. The fact that we're even saying, like, I know a boat that you can get on.
It's disparaging. And I mean, they made the choice to take off.
Come on.
The Broadway lyrics started with Puerto Rico, you lovely island, island of tropical breezes, always the pineapples growing, always the coffee blossoms. They took that out. And then the beginning of the film lyrics, Puerto Rico, my heart's devotion, let it sink back in the ocean. So always the hurricanes blowing, always the population growing, and the money owing, and the sunlight streaming, and the natives steaming.
And if we want to get deep into that, let's discuss America, how you've ravaged this island and done things to it. Maybe why they do owe money.
Let me ask you guys this. Let me ask you this.
Listen,
Let me ask you this. Okay, like I was one of my favorite shows is Star Trek, and Star Trek had the first interracial kiss on television. And it was a really, I guess, huge deal at the time. And now something we would look at like, whatever.
It's a Tuesday.
Yeah, but when you Star Trek, and I feel bad. I feel like let me just say what I'm saying.
Say it,
Okay,
bro.
so let me just say what I'm saying.
Feel
Okay,
free. Be free.
so Lieutenant Uhura is a black woman on Star Trek, the original Star Trek, and she does some things, during the show that feel like, man, that like there's times that her race is really highlighted and everything like that. But when you're talking to the makers of the show and stuff back then, they were talking about like, no, there's a black woman on the bridge of this starship, which you got to understand, when we made this show, that's unheard of. Like that.
Right, right. That was huge.
So let me ask you this. It seems like with human nature, for change, it's necessary in a lot of cases to go through these steps.
Sure.
So is that just a necessary step that you got to go through? Because
in a white supremacist land, yes.
Because
it is because it's like there is a relinquishing of power that has to happen. Mm-hmm. And so and that's why it goes back to this question of like, is it better to just for there to be a void or for there to be a misrepresentation? We talk about it all the time, how growing up, we never talked about, they would be talking about world history, and in Africa, the entire continent would not exist in our world history classes until slavery happened. And then in the context of slave trades in various countries, you would then start to meet Black people.
Oh, don't forget about Egypt, because Egypt is not in Africa.
Segregated it and decided it was not. And so I mean, there is something about erasure that is like being erased is awful. But the misrepresentation, I hate that it's a progress point, bro, but at least just acknowledging you're there. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. So maybe the erasing is worse.
Because can I tell you something? The beginning of that song always bothered me because it felt like it didn't make sense. Because when she comes out and she's saying, Puerto Rico, my heart's devotion, it's like she's saying it with this.
She's
love.
Mocking.
No, the first lyric.
Oh,
what I'm saying is the second lyric, because she says Puerto Rico, my heart's devotion. And then she says, let us sink down back into the ocean. But what I'm saying is that part didn't feel like it matched the first part. And I always felt like maybe that is the point that they were trying to make. But what you just told me makes so much more sense. It doesn't go together because that's not how the song goes.
And even that line, I heard it as sarcasm. I heard her saying, oh, my heart's devotion. Like it's the way that I say, oh, I love the Steelers because I'm from Pittsburgh, but I don't watch the Steelers. And so I heard her saying it in that kind of way. Like I have to say it because I'm Puerto Rican, but it's the worst. I didn't hear that. I hear what you're saying, bro.
You're right. I'm agreeing with you. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is now makes sense because like even if she was going to say something sarcastic, that's not how you would phrase it. Like, Puerto Rico, my heart's devotion, you would say something else. Right. So I'm saying, even if we hear the lyrics as sarcastic in the way she's saying it, what I'm saying is the lyrics themselves make more sense with what you just read. Yep. Because if you were trying to express a sarcastic statement, it would just flow better so many different ways than starting off by saying my heart's devotion. And can I say one thing?
Okay.
Can I say one thing about that character? And this was
Anita,
who's played by Janai, help me out.
Rita Moreno.
Rita Moreno.
And so again, progress.
So
Progress that
now,
she was there.
Now here's the crazy thing.
Oh.
Rita Moreno, I looked this up on Google because I was curious. Because when you see her move, she is unmistakably Puerto Rican. Because I would just let you know, because at the end of that same dance number, that this song that we're talking about, they get into some dance.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, Maria was downstairs in her room because who played Maria?
Natalie Wood.
She was a classically trained dancer, but not in the way that
I'll tell you what she wasn't trained in: accents. I'm sorry, go ahead, bro.
Well, point I'm trying to make
your
is
accent together.
Point I'm trying to make is that when you see her, there's when you see people dance in their culture, there's a certain thing that you can't duplicate.
Absolutely.
You know, and this is what it is. It's like
it's his training. It's his training.
Have you ever seen those Lebanese dances at weddings? The dabki, like that.
Yes.
Like even if I learned how to do it, it's not going to be.
It's not
the same
right. No.
as you know.
You see, like the Maori or the Samoan doing the haka. Come on,
you can learn it, but you can't do it.
Brittany, that is that's an amazing example.
That's a perfect example.
Because I'm gonna tell you, like when you're watching it from somebody who that's part of who they are, and people are so beautiful. I mean, like, but it'll infect you with an emotion watching it. And what I'm saying is, so it made me look, because I'm like, that's the real Puerto Rican. So I was just curious to look it up because it still looked like she had a brown face. But guess what? They made her wear brown face so she wouldn't look bad again, or so that the other actors who had to actually wear brown face wouldn't look bad against her. And
her real Latinx complexion.
So now I'm conflicted again. It's like, okay, we have somebody who's actually
from Puerto Rico
in this movie from Puerto Rico, but they making her wear brown face.
And
so you can make me look more like who I am. No, it's your version of who I am.
So you can make me look. No. So you can make me look.
It's both.
More like you looking like me.
It's both.
So you can make me look like you looking like me.
But it's also both. Look how I expect you to look. And you know what? There's a nugget. Go ahead, sis.
Oh no, I was just going to circle back to just a point that you guys made earlier. Just the level of things that people of color have had to go through in this country to be in the arts, so I know in Rita Moreno's mind, she was like, this is not going to happen for the next Latino, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, whatever word they were using then, to the next one, because I'm going to take this now. And then so this doesn't have to happen down the road. Like,
because it happened to the problem. I'm starting us down the right trajectory.
Like,
so that because with Genia, there's another West Side Story that's recorded now.
Yep.
And what I'm saying is I'm very excited to see it.
Yeah.
I can't wait till it comes out.
I hope it's not like corny, like it's High School Musical or something.
I think they know. I think
they are really. Can I tell before we start to talk about the new one that's coming out, y'all? There's another nugget, and I've been holding this back from y'all. Even like we have because before we record the podcast, y'all, we try not to do a ton of research,
too much talking,
and we try not to chat with each other about the content too much so that we can really talk. Y'all, I need you to get ready to take your festivities levels to the next level.
Listen.
And I had this new information, I think, when I was watching it.
What is it, a dagger? What are we using?
Y'all gonna need a switchblade.
Where's my shank? Where's my
gosh.
switchblade?
And you know what? This is probably why I couldn't even let them fall in love in my mind, because I was so full of anger and frustration as I was watching it. So the movie itself was formed in 2 locations, partially on a soundstage in Hollywood, but it was partially filmed in an area in New York that was originally called San Juan Hill. And San Juan Hill, right before the filming of this movie, so right before the filming of this movie, San Juan Hill had been a hotbed of African-American culture. It was a place that was full of Black people. It was an African-American neighborhood. And it was a place where there was jazz. It was a place where, and I had pulled up the names now. Okay, listen. Important jazz musicians performed and nurtured their work in San Juan Hill. Thelonious Monk, one of the most influential jazz pianists. Okay, James P. Johnson, he's a pianist and the creator of the Charleston craze that swept the country in the 1920s. So this just gives you a sense of what kind of culture existed there. Okay, and a city developer, a city planner comes along named Robert Moses, and using eminent domain, and the definition of eminent domain, and from Investopedia.com, eminent domain is the power of the United States government, states, and municipalities to take private property for public use following the payment of just compensation. So Robert Moses just decided that he wanted to repurpose that land for something else and wiped out that entire area. You're not ready for this number. 7,000 people were displaced, and the vast majority being Black, displaced. And so this movie was filmed on the actual rubble of that displacement, the actual rubble. They were dancing and snapping on the places where Black people lived and thrived. Now, the neighborhood was not perfect. There was gang violence. There were drugs. There were problems, but all communities have them, especially of a community of oppressed people in a country like this. But they used that. They used the gangs. They used that as their justification for just literally demolishing all of San Juan Hill. And so they're literally traipsing around on the rubble of that entire process. And what makes it worse, y'all, is that what exists now on that land is Lincoln Center. And this is like a world-known destination for arts and culture. So
listen, let me tell you something.
Just Google San Juan Hill, Manhattan, y'all, and you're gonna find so much information. It's gonna make you sick.
Listen,
it's gonna make you sick.
If karma is truly a bitch, this country, the things that have happened on this soil are ridiculous. The amount of ridiculousness, like I can't, and I think about it every day, but I can't fathom, like just to hear that happening. And we know, because it's happened even in the city that we grew up in. We have a place now that is a parking lot that used to be a place where Black and brown people lived. They moved them out so they can build a giant arena. And that current location is a giant ass parking lot. This is what we do. We erase people. And then what do? We make a movie, a musical about 2 separate cultures.
Wiped out the Black people, painted white people, and danced them over the rubble. That's what happened.
This is what happened. And I want to go, okay, they did this, they did. But then my mind goes, I can't let you get away with this.
Exactly.
Like I can't be okay with this.
Like I said,
though I was still sitting there feeling nostalgia, like, look at that thing.
Well,
so conflicting.
What I was really when we talk about like the movie coming out this year, it's like all of those things had to happen for this movie to come out.
For 2020.
And it seems they're gonna do right by it. I gotta say.
And you said Rita Moreno, right?
That's right. It's Steven Spielberg, and he really truly, they have done a great job of trying to right some of the wrongs. Every character that is Latinx is played by someone Latinx. And also he has Rita Moreno is an executive producer, gets executive producer credit, has been just playing the role to make sure it is authentic. And he has created a new role so that she could be in this one. And it's called Valentina. And I watched.
She's going to be in it.
She's going to be in it. And she is in it because it's done. It's done.
I don't want to feel one way or the other. I just can't wait to see it.
I can't wait to see it.
Listen, I still haven't even watched the preview yet because I was like, let me have this conversation first.
Yes.
Our conversation.
Yes.
And then I want to get all this out of my system. And then I'm like, and hope it's happening.
Yeah.
2021.
Yeah.
Let me watch this.
And what I need everyone to know is like, so the first thing I want to name is that Steven Spielberg, I watched a little interview of him talking about the 2020 version. And I got to tell you, my respect for the man went to another level because he demonstrated a commitment to, being as equitable as possible in the creation of that movie. He talked about the value of bringing in, the other perspectives. He was committed to making sure that it was not only white people writing and interpreting. And so I just really appreciated that. All right, everyone. So obviously the internet went down.
The internets.
But guess what? We're not gonna let the internet win. Okay. So we shut it down on recording day number 1. And now you know what we're doing, internet? We're circling back. And we're going to finish the end of this podcast. Okay. We will not be defeated.
We will not be rendered.
What was our voting symbol? Was it a crack rock?
Switchblade.
Thank you. Okay. I can remember.
I know you always wanted to be a crack rock.
Oh my God. Oh my gosh. Why is
if our podcast ever does catch on, that'll be one of our running jokes.
Right. Clearly.
Even when we're on episode 1307.
Yeah. Right. And I will tell y'all, when it froze last time, I didn't realize it was happening. And we have all of this footage. One day when we put bloopers online, we have at least 3 minutes, maybe 2 minutes of me talking, and y'all are like you're frozen. So that's funny. But what we were talking about, y'all, is the new version, Steven Spielberg's version of West Side Story. And it was actually supposed to come out in December 2020. But so it's done. But they have put it on the shelf and it's now slated to come out December 2021. And so we're actually releasing this podcast on December 12th. And the movie, the movie that was supposed to come out in 2020 would have been coming out the next Saturday. So would have been in perfect timing. But obviously pushing it back was the right thing to do because they're going to make some money on that movie when it comes out, because as we were talking about, they have really tried to be racially equitable in the making.
Let me tell you this. I don't know how the movie's going to be, but I looked at that cast and they got the casting right.
They definitely did. I'm optimistic.
So I'm real optimistic because I was like, why? Like that chick who is
fierce.
She looks like Maria. Like she looks.
That's how she's supposed to look.
That's how she's supposed to look.
Okay,
this
is a Vanity Fair, or this is a picture from a
Yes.
Vanity Fair article.
Yes.
And for those,
the one that's playing Anita, she was in Hamilton. She's part of the original cast of Hamilton.
All right.
I was so excited when I saw her. I was
that
like,
is an Afro Latina.
So oh, she's so good.
Okay.
Even look at the clothes. Like,
look at the colors.
It's just
gorgeous.
they got it right. Look at the joy in their face while they're dancing.
I'm just I need to calm down because
it's gonna be good.
I'm gonna just temper my.
Part of it.
We have so long to wait.
The young lady that's playing Maria. This is her first anything. Like, so when someone is doing their first anything in terms of this grand of a scale, the way they're after it, you already know this character is like, it's about to be a rap. Like,
I thought you said she was in Hamilton.
No, that's Anita.
Anita was in Hamilton. Get it.
She's in Hamilton.
Okay. And I was reading an interview with the girl, and I think it was that Vanity Fair article with the woman that will be playing Maria. And actually, why don't I just get her name? It's right here. And she was saying, Broadway star Ariana DeBose in the gold dress as Anita, and David Alvarez to her right as shark leader Bernardo. Okay, so that is actually in the foreground of that photo. That is the Anita character and the Bernardo character. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's not Maria, that's Anita. So that's the person you're talking about, sis.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited. I'm so excited. That's all.
Me too.
So y'all, I feel like I think this was all we had left to cover, because we talked about San Juan Hill.
Yeah.
And we had covered pretty much all aspects of the movie. I think that all that was left was to rate it.
Well, I want to say a couple quick things.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to be able to get into them because of but I just wanted to say that I was surprisingly moved by the scene where Tony and Maria get together for the first time and the only time. That was a very impactful scene, and all the death scenes at the end hit me harder than I anticipated. So I'm just saying in terms of the weighing whether or not this was a good movie, we talked about a lot of stuff, but I'm just saying as it ended, it still impacted me. You know, like I still felt it on some level, just the tragedy of it. You know what I mean?
It's crazy that you would say that, because I was the total opposite. By the time that Tony was at her house crawling through the window and they did it, my eyes were rolling out of my head down the street. Like, I was like,
I haven't seen my eyes yet.
Girl,
they never roll back. My eyes never roll back. I mean, he literally, your brother's blood is on him. On his shirt.
Know what is attractive in this movie.
I think that you guys had higher expectations than me in terms
it's possible.
When I'm watching a musical, I know these are going to be fantastical situations.
Right.
That would never happen. Like, they're not writing like, okay, how would this actually play out? It's like they're taking a love story that would have happened over 10 years and shoving it into 2 days of
You're right. I mean, this is one of those things where you do just have to go with it. And again, for all of the reasons I named, I probably wasn't in the right headspace to just go with it, because I had learned so much about the history of the filming, and I was so frustrated about all of that context. I really wonder if that is what kept me from suspending my disbelief and like really, letting go of the reality checks I kept doing throughout the whole movie.
Well, I think that's a perfect segue into
Yeah.
Because that's a perfect segue into, because we're going to summarize it all.
Yeah.
And how we feel.
Mm-hmm.
So
take it away, bro.
Well, I'm going to say this.
This is hard.
I
It's
still
so hard.
Like I said, I still enjoyed the movie. I think my expectations were more like your actual reaction. So I was expecting to be rolling my eyes and all of that. And I guess since my expectations were so low in terms of watching this in 2020 and just like I didn't know. I'm just saying I think that's why I was able to enjoy it still on some level. But it's just too problematic. And I was and it's too in your face that for me, if it's going to be a classic, I can't feel the way, like I shouldn't be battling back and forth during watching it. And but beyond that, as a movie itself, when you told me the old lyrics and the new lyric, the actual
Broadway lyric
lyrics
versus the movie lyric for the song America.
They had to work so hard to force, because I'm telling you, that always bothered me the way that, because when she comes in, Puerto Rico, my heart's devoted, let it sink back into the ocean. It's like, okay, like we talked about already, but I'm just saying, but it makes so much more sense to me now because that wasn't the song. That wasn't how the song goes. So even from the aspect of, it makes me think how much other stuff was, messed with to, and I know the timing and blah, 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 but long story short, I just can't say it's a classic from my perspective because now I can't, even if I was to watch it again, which I might, it would be more of showing somebody like, this is a part of history that's interesting to observe. And let's, I would talk about the context and so I could see watching it again from that side of it, but getting those warm feelings that I had associated with West Side Story, I don't have them anymore.
Oh God, it's so complex.
I mean, it's complex. It's not even me saying it now. Like I'm not, because there are great things, like they did give minority actors a platform in a time where they didn't have one.
That's right. A couple of them.
And
yes.
the
few.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm saying,
but we know,
but they did. Yeah, they did.
But they did. And the message of the movie technically is a good one in the sense of violence and racism is stupid. But how can you be racist while making a movie?
I'll just say this.
Listen,
I could
racism.
How? Only white supremacy can do that.
Bro, you have to make the statement. Does this movie get your switchblade? You have to.
I already said it.
You said it wasn't a classic.
Oh, okay. No, the movie does not get my switchblade. I had to put it back in.
Yeah. I think my switchblade's gonna stay in my pocketbook, folks. Because it's not getting my switchblade. And I'm gonna tell you, I went back and forth on this. I really did. And now we even had a couple more days to think about it.
Yeah.
And again, I'm going back. I'm going forth. And I'm going to tell you, there were just too many things. So it's like, okay, you've got white people not doing even a great job of playing Puerto Rican people. Okay, your accents, they're coming and going. You know, sometimes you just sound like the accents like you have on it's makeup. At least go tan. I don't know what they were doing. So they're doing a bad job of doing it. Number two, if it's to not be able to see the hypocrisy in what you're doing. You know, it's like the people who go as America and give aid to other countries, but give it with all of these conditions. You know, people who go to other countries and they go under the guise of helping, but will only help you if you are also listening, for example, to religious propaganda. You know, it's like, how do you not see the hypocrisy in making a movie that is supposed to be about a message of racism being dumb, and you take so many anti-Puerto Rican philosophies into the movie, including not even hiring Latinx people. So that's number two. And then the third piece is, again, I think the choreography. Oh, if we were a dance podcast, they would get the switchblade, because the choreography to me was really blowing me away. I really enjoyed it. But in terms of the actual musical numbers,
ironically, especially the "I Like to Be in America,"
it's so fun.
The dance montages,
the dance montages, they're fun. But when I put them into this movie, there are times where they were dancing in a way that wasn't helpful. I prefer a number that's moving the story along, like I've said. And I just felt like they had so much great choreography that they just were putting it in there. I don't know, y'all. So I can't give it. And then to know that they were literally dancing on the rubble of the homes of Black people. They literally demolished San Juan Hill, demolished it, and then had the nerve. They used eminent domain to move all those people out, wrecking balled their homes, then had the nerve to use it as a movie set that was about racism and gentrification. You know what, y'all? It's just too much. It's just too much. So no switchblade. Can't do it. And actually, this is one of those movies I'm not going to watch again. You know, there's so many movies from our childhood that if they're on TV, I stop, I watch. The musicals that, you know, all the musicals from our childhood, I watch them if they're on. If this movie is on, I'm clicking past. I don't want it. I don't want it.
Listen. Okay.
I'm done with it.
I had all of the nostalgia feelings, like when the movie first started and the screen was red, and I was like, oh yay, what's that story? And we're about to see the Jets, these tough guys with these little pants on, dancing in the street. Is it exactly? Standing up in front of Doc's store and telling it like it is.
Yeah.
You know, the officer correct you, being a butthead to them. Like, you know, I just was so just ready for all of it. But even without all the research, when I saw what was happening with a different eye, I was like, so much in our past has gotten we've got so much in the past have gotten away with so much stuff, and no one has said anything. And I really associated it with a lot of what is happening now. The United States of America, in some standpoints, is trying to do a lot of unlearning. And because there is a lot of unlearning that is happening and forcing people to look at themselves, I had to look at this through this lens without me even trying, without me even wanting to do that, with knowing that what was already going to happen. I could not unsee the awfulness of what was going on in this movie, and just the ridiculous nature of the undertone of what was happening as well. And so that all of that together was frustrating. And also to see that I know that the movie was based on white versus Puerto Rican, but to dismiss everybody else that is in a city, you're dismissing all other cultures. Like they couldn't even be in the background. They couldn't even be driving down the street. Like they're nowhere in this neighborhood. And I just was like, I don't know how this was okay. How was this okay? And so that with all that being said, echoing my siblings, it was a struggle because this is basically me saying no, this is not a classic, although this has been our childhood. This is not a classic. It gets no Switchblade. Because of what I've been saying for forever is the audacity. Like it's just the audacity that frustrates me so very much, that you would do this and that you would be okay with it. And the fact that part of me gets even a little more upset is that you will always still be deemed a classic West Side Story.
Yeah.
You will always still be deemed a classic.
History is written by the victors.
Every time you will be, people, high schools are going to put that musical on, you know, there are going to continue to be rewrites and things like, and to know that I was watching one of the documentaries, in the original, they weren't going with ethnicity. They were going to make a musical about religion. So it was going to be like the Catholics in this neighborhood versus something else. And I wanted to stop and say, let's go back and you all do that. Do something you know about. Don't do something that you don't know about. Or if you're going to know about it, do it properly. And you didn't. You did it very improperly. And so that is frustrating. That is extremely frustrating. So no Switchblade.
No Switchblade.
And it hurts my feelings that I have to do that. But
Yeah,
no
I think we're all.
And
happy.
Isn't it worth noting? It's worth noting that we're talking about the movie, not the Broadway show. Because we haven't seen, have y'all seen the Broadway show? I don't feel like I have. I feel like I might have seen like high school version. I don't know. Like I don't feel like I really know the Broadway show, but I have enough questions just by looking at the comparison of the lyrics of the Broadway version, the original 1957 Broadway version of the song America, and then the 1961 movie, because just those lyrics were so different. I almost want to make it super clear that we are talking about this movie, because the Broadway show might have a more redeeming value, and maybe the Broadway show historically did a better job. I don't know.
Right.
You know, we didn't look into that. You know, and also certainly the Steven Spielberg movie, it seems like they're going to really try to right a lot of these wrongs. And so in that way, you know, there's potentially a happy ending coming here, you know, which is very exciting. You know, so we'll see. And I misspoke earlier. I said that the movie was about gentrification. No, the filming was about gentrification, but the movie was about racial anxiety. So I just I heard myself misspeak there. Okay, so this movie does not it is not a classic from the Wright Perspective.
I have a suggestion for the next movie.
Okay, I thought we had the next movie.
What is the next one?
I thought it was Die Hard, because our next one's going to post after Christmas.
It's Christmas.
Forgot.
But what were you thinking?
I'm so excited.
Well, I was thinking something that was probably going to get on Aubrey's last nerve.
Put it out there. Let's get his reaction right now, live.
I was thinking Eddie, the Whoopi Goldberg movie.
I like that. I see that movie better still be good when we go back, because I have good feelings when you say the name of that movie.
Listen, it's going to be good.
It better still be good.
Whoopi Goldberg.
Well, listen, everybody. Brittany
tells them off.
Brittany has another engagement that she has to do, so we have to go ahead and get off.
Oh, but it is 8:59.
We got to go ahead and get off. My bad. But
Die Hard is next, y'all.
We'll bring up that other movie we was talking about.
Wait,
next time. But
is it all the Die Hards or just the one?
Oh, there's more than one? I thought it was just one.
I thought it was
We're
Die
just-
Hard 1 and 2.
We're just
Oh.
okay. We're only watching one,
One.
Just
Got
one?
it.
but
I'm happy you had told me that. I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Both of you
Mm-hmm.
need to go look up how many hours there are. Okay?
Just tell us. Just tell
No,
us.
I'm not telling you. I'm just told.
If we say 20,
I
are we
need-
close if we say 5?
This has been a very emotional roller coaster for me because the West Side Story had me feeling one way, and then you brought up Die Hard, which had me another way, and then you brought up Eddie, which had me back down, and then
Huh.
and then I was feeling good again because we were still talking about Die Hard, and then I don't even know what to say to
I
you
just
people.
feel like the word die is so definitive.
Okay, all right. So listen,
Having
this was
many of them, it's like, but aren't you dead?
I think there are.
If you're dead,
It's Die Hard, which means that it is very hard for the main protagonist to die.
so it's hard to die.
Oh, okay.
Well, they
he's
didn't
not,
say
like,
unable
dying
to
a
die.
hard kind of way.
They didn't say
It's-
unable
it's-
to die. They didn't say death proof.
Because
So-
he didn't die because he's in 1, 2,
You looked it up.
3, 4, 5. There's 6 of them.
There's 6.
So it is pretty
Okay.
hard to die, is what I think we're
All
getting
right.
at.
So the
Okay.
naming of the movie, that's
Bruce
something we can talk
Willis.
about.
It's Bruce.
That's
Willis.
something we can talk about in the
We can
podcast.
talk about that
Because it's
We can talk
it's
about
like
that.
it's sending a clear message that,
I
that
should've-
there's a
you know,
death.
Yeah.
But then it
Yeah.
sounds like he didn't die.
we were
So
supposed, we were
88.
supposed to be.
we better wrap. Yep.
All right,
So
Yeah.
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
We'll
I
circle
see
back
it.
to this
I
name
see it.
because
And
it's
we're gonna
confusing.
circle.
I'm sure we're
And
not the
we're
first
gonna-
people to find it confusing.
Yeah.
We're going to circle.
Yeah.
Don't you worry.
Or did he like die and come back?
Okay, so
We're-
he's
we're-
immortal.
We're going to circle. Don't you worry.
Maybe
He's
he's
a
immortal.
superhero.
He's a superhero.
Okay.
Got it. All right.
Very
It's all
good.
coming together
Very
now.
good. Love you, bro. Thank you for
Okay,
introducing us to
thanks
this
everybody.
Marvel
This
movie.
is This has been the Right Perspective. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Bye.